All right. Well, and so here again, constitutional coup headquarters, just as we head into the new year. And there's a lot of concern, as I'm sure a lot of you know, about the 9 parts, the U.S. Supreme Court overturning, quote unquote, Roe v. Wade in the upcoming weeks. And that certainly could happen. The good news for all of us is it doesn't matter a damn bit because Roe wasn't good law when it was made 50 years ago, well, 49, and it wasn't even based on any known provision of the Constitution. At the time, it was known as Harry's abortion on the court. Hip pocket Harry Blackman, who was a rather good person and a pretty good justice, but this wasn't one of his better opinions. But the point I'm making here is Roe v. Wade, the due process clause is a non existent 14th War Amendment. Who the hell cares? Doesn't matter what it is. And when you understand the truth about American history and the Constitution, and you can learn a lot about that by sending me an email, unincourt@gmail.com. Eye-opening information, modestly priced. You're going to love it. You're going to find out the 14th Amendment not only doesn't exist, it never did. Prove it black and white, dead bang. So we don't need Roe v. Wade. And this is a big deal because when you go to, especially the U.S. Supreme Court, you'll learn about their Ashwander doctrine for rules they use to decide what to hear or not to hear, which I don't think applies to us, as you'll learn by getting my materials. But that said, um, one of their key rules here. And this, by the way, was the first page of the first law course I took back in 1983. No, never been to Harvard, Yale, UC, Berkeley. Common law, of course. First thing on there was the rules of the Supreme Court, Ashwander. And I didn't appreciate them fully at the time like I do now. But listen to this one. The court will not pass on a question of constitutional law, though properly presented by the record, if there is also present some other ground, parenthetically undefined, upon which the case, not to mention all our rights secured by the Constitution, can be disposed of. And I think we know how good this government is at disposing of things. So that said, what we do is go up there with an entirely different situation from Roe v. Wade, and we're challenging authority, which we have every right to do, which includes challenging the jurisdiction and venue of the trial court. And be prepped. They're not going to like this initially. It's one of my missions and should be yours to try to make friends out of people, especially on the local level. They don't have a clue either. And that's not our problem. But the plain fact of the matter is, they haven't been teaching what I have learned and studied over the course of 5 decades anywhere that I can tell for at least 60, 70 years. You may have to go back as far as the 1940s when Rehnquist and O'Connor were at Stanford Law School together. It's just not there. Now, the big deal for us is that these people in official positions of honor, profit, and trust in government have the sworn duty to know it and act on it. And that's what we have to start to get happening. And that said, I'm excited because I've developed some ways here I think it's going to achieve that effect, and in an unprecedented window of opportunity where we can make some real difference here for ourselves, for our children, and our posterity. Back to Roe v. Wade, what you do here, and this template applies virtually across the board, is use other provisions of the Constitution. And I have issues that arise from all 6 articles. Who the hell cares about a goddamn 14th Amendment? Doesn't matter a bit. So we get there, and we're going to be asking, questions, especially about the validity of the people making the decisions, because you're going to find out nobody in government is lawfully in possession of their office. That's for starters, and we disqualify every one of them. And we should be able to not only do that, but get it affirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court for reasons you'll learn when you get my materials. Send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com about that. So here we are with the situation with Roe and basically across the board that none of the 14th Amendment cases is they've been deciding almost an unbroken chain for 100 years or so on that amendment, quote unquote, applied to us. And think about that. Why? Because the 14th Amendment, you'll learn what it did, if it ever existed at all, was to create a subordinate body politic that had no rights the government is bound to respect. That was a result of the war between the states and a lot of overt concern, although very casual concern behind the scenes, with the fate of the freedmen, quote unquote. All that was, like so many things the government does, it looks good on the surface, but if you go behind the scenes and you see what happened there, and with the 14th Amendment, as though they could do that by the amendment process, at least as they attempted to do it there. You can't replace the sovereign body politic of the nation and republic. What is that? Free, white, male, 21. Right or wrong, or good or bad, that's the way it started out. It hasn't been changed. And that's the big deal for me. If you can change the sovereign body politic or destroy it by the amendment process the way it was done in 1868, then there is no constitution, there are no rights, there are no courts, and we don't have any peaceful remedies. Get over it already. If you're prepared to stand up and fight, let's do it together. And yeah, it is going to be a fight. But if we can make friends out of the local people in positions, in that government, we're going to do well, because they're major beneficiaries. Most of the government power should be in the counties, not Sacramento here in California, not my former hometown of Washington, D.C. Should be local, much less expensive, much more efficient, much easier to change. And we can do that in the federated Republican form of government that the framers set up for us with the Constitution of defined and limited powers. Because locally, now we can run for offices in every one of them, and we have a chance to get to know people on the local level, and vote them into office or out of office, as the case may be, where most of the government power is. That's what's exciting about it, is we really can do it. Now, the system is so far gone, and I can prove a cappella off the top of my head, among other things: no states, no electorate, no elections. And it goes on and on. And with no elections, you tell me, especially any of you people out there in positions of honor, profit, and trust in the de facto government, where the hell is the consent of the governed here? Doesn't exist, hasn't existed for 160 odd years. That's what has to change. And who cares about all this BS about doing the redistricting and this, that, and the other, and voting rights, quote unquote, that have to be legislated by Congress, which can't happen if we have sovereign, independent states. And think about this: we're bitching out here in California because we got reduced from 53 to 52 members in the House of Representatives. Not a big deal, particularly when you consider, are you ready for this? That we should have, my goodness, 300, almost 400 representatives from California alone in the House of Representatives. That overall should have almost 11,000. That's the kind of argument we make, not this bullshit civil rights crap. It isn't going to go anywhere. It was never designed to do it, and it's a total waste of time. They're laughing at us behind the scenes in Washington, D.C., and more to the point, 120 Broadway, New York, where the New York banksters are. Now, everything's going their way, but we still have the power to stop it, in the only nation and republic ever conceived in which it's possible. And I think it's still doable now. I'm reading a lot of tea leaves there, but I've gotten pretty good at that over the course of 5 decades. And the government has really gone too far here, especially in certain areas that you're well aware of. And I think we can get them and get to our right to trial by jury. And that jury, by the way, has the power to rule on the facts and the law. They don't want you to know that. You never hear it in school. I didn't hear it 50 years ago either. But when I realized that reality, and the fact that even if you have a jury trial, you don't have one, That's how corrupt this system is. They can't let cases go to the jury, and I've never gotten to one, and I'm probably never going to see one either. But then I'm sitting here with almost 600 jury instructions that are a part of my modestly priced document packets that you can order. Send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I'll get the information out to you, and we can go from there. But it works. It has to work if the Constitution remains in full force and effect as the supreme law of the land, and we have sovereign, independent common law states admitted pursuant to Article 4, Section 3. That's the way it is. There's no doubt about it. And we start making those points and get into even in their corrupt courts, let alone ours. And that's where it's getting really exciting. I think I found a couple of ways to get beyond, the justice system and the administrative tribunals and the state bar associations that control the whole thing. And they couldn't give a rat's ass about us or anyone else as far as having rights secured by the Constitution. I think I've got some ways to do it now. I'm working very hard on it and developing it, and I'll keep you updated, especially those of you that get my materials. You get complimentary updates for 1 year from the time you get them, and you will be in the loop and know what's going on. And a lot of it you may be reading about in the papers anyway, because I think what I'm doing here can break through the mindless mainstream media at long last and get them to do their job as members of the fourth estate that they should be doing. Once that happens, the game really is over. Unless the de facto national socialist government decides to go out to all-out warfare against the American people. I can't see that happening, but you can't rule anything out in this day and age. If it happens, it's going to be worth, taking the risk, because otherwise, there goes the lives of your children, your posterity, our posterity. It's only going to get worse. And it's just unspeakable what could happen here. So that said, that's why at the age of 74, as I hope you can see, I'm very passionate about what I do. My life is still ahead of me. When you know the truth like this, and you've acted on it, as I did in my South Carolina felony case, where I shut the bastards up 30 seconds in my first hearing, they never recovered. That's the kind of power that we have. You know the law, and they don't. And I got a real practical lesson there that's if I get a chance to repeat it again, I would love to do it. Not under those circumstances, but 30 seconds. I've there manacled hand and foot in a red jail suit. They're the ones in trouble with the law, and everybody knew it. That's what we need to get started doing here. Get on the feel good side, realize the right perspective, that we have rights secured by the Constitution, and that we have the power and the government we ordained and established to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Oh, goodness, I've run on here a bit, and this applies to all of us, by the way. We have to get through this divide and conquer crap they're doing now, especially with civil rights. Not how it works. Are we the political sovereignty? Yeah, we are. If we get back to the system we should have, everyone else has enforceable rights. And that's what it is we need to do. We can go from that starting point and make whatever changes we wish in accordance with the Constitution, not in contravention of it. That said, remember to subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we all start working together and cut out this divide and conquer crap, the sooner we get these people off our backs. Thank you.